Family. It's supposed to be where you find your biggest supporters. A place where you're valued, no matter your title or bank balance. But sometimes family becomes something else. A mirror held up to your worst fears. My name is Jessica Thompson, and 3 months ago, I became the person my family whispered about behind carefully polite smiles. Not because I failed, but because I dared to build something real, quietly in the shadows. And today, at our annual reunion, they were about to find out that the person they dismissed might just be the one rewriting the rules. Stay with me, because this isn't just a story about revenge. It's about building something that no one can take away from you. Let's start at the beginning. Every summer, the Thompsons gathered at Aunt Patricia's house, a sprawling estate with white fences, a manicured garden, and enough hidden envy to fuel a soap opera. On the surface, it looked like any happy family gathering. Barbecues, lemonade, kids running barefoot across the lawn. But underneath, it was a quiet arms race. Who got the bigger promotion? Who bought the flashier car? Who just closed the biggest real estate deal? And if you weren't climbing fast enough, you became the cautionary tale passed around between bites of potato salad. I still remember Peter, my cousin, boasting about his new tech startup funding, while Amanda, his sister, pulled out photos of her Malibu beach house like they were business cards. Everyone clapped politely, trading compliments like currency. But the looks they gave each other said it all. Who's winning and who's slipping behind? And me? Well, to them I was the cautionary tale. The girl who once had so much potential, now looking for her next move. What they didn't know was that I wasn't lost. I was simply choosing a different kind of race. One that didn't need their approval or their applause. Little did they know, while they were busy measuring success by headlines and houses, I had been quietly building something much bigger. And today, well, their scoreboard was about to get a major update. As I stood at the edge of Aunt Patricia's perfect garden, balancing a sweating glass of lemonade in my hand, I could feel the conversation shifting. Little glances in my direction. Little whispers behind well-manicured smiles. Peter, who loved the sound of his own voice almost as much as he loved venture capital, waved me over. "Jessica," he called out loud enough for everyone to hear. "We were just discussing career transitions. Maybe you can share some tips from personal experience." Laughter rippled through the crowd. Polite, controlled. The kind that stings more than an outright insult. Amanda chimed in, faux sweetness dripping from her words. "It must be so hard in tech these days, Jess. I hear Nexus let a lot of people go during their restructuring. So unstable, isn't it?" They didn't want an answer. They wanted a spectacle. In their eyes, I wasn't Jessica the developer. I was Jessica the failure. A walking, talking warning label. Even Trevor, my youngest cousin, fresh out of business school and brimming with all the arrogance youth can offer, piped up with a smirk. "Guess coding wasn't really your thing after all, huh?" That was the thing about humiliation. It didn't need to come with screaming matches or slammed doors. Sometimes it arrived quietly, wrapped in forced smiles and champagne toasts. And here's the truth. Being underestimated hurts. But sometimes, being underestimated is the greatest gift. Because it gives you the freedom to move unseen. To build without the weight of their expectations. Or their permission. What they didn't know, standing there with their wine glasses and polished shoes, was that while they were busy laughing, I was counting down the minutes to a moment they would never forget. While my cousins stood there, basking in their moment of triumph, I simply smiled and glanced at my watch. 2:57 p.m. Right on schedule. Because what they didn't know, what no one in my family knew, was that I wasn't standing there empty-handed. I was carrying a secret. For the past 5 years, alongside my regular work at Nexus Technologies, I had been building something after hours. Night after night, weekend after weekend. Fueled by too much coffee and a stubborn refusal to give up. I called it Project Sentinel. an AI-driven security system designed to detect and neutralize cyber threats faster than anything the world had ever seen. Not a flashy app, not a trendy social network, something real, something that could protect companies, governments, even everyday people. In a digital world growing darker by the minute, I remember one night, 2 a.m., rain tapping against my apartment window, when Sentinel caught a simulated cyber attack in under 2 seconds. I stared at the screen, soaked in disbelief. Right there, in my tiny living room, I knew I wasn't just building software. I was building something that mattered. But I wasn't naive. I'd seen too many developers pour their souls into brilliant creations, only to have them stolen, whitewashed, and paraded around by people who couldn't even write a line of code. So here's what I learned. If you're going to build something precious, protect it, not with noise, but with quiet, deliberate brilliance. And that's exactly what I did. Deep within Sentinel's architecture, I planted a hidden verification protocol, a silent guardian that would reveal the system's true creator. If anyone ever tried to claim it as their own, they thought they had erased me. But they had no idea that the clock was already ticking. And in just a few minutes, at precisely 3 p.m., my secret was going to light up the sky. If you've ever built something you believed in, you'll know it's not just a project. It's a piece of you, your late nights, your quiet hopes, your stubborn dreams woven into lines of code no one else even sees. That's what Project Sentinel was to me. So when the call came from Robert Kane, the newly minted CEO of Nexus Technologies, I walked into that meeting room with my heart pounding, still foolishly hoping he saw the potential I had poured my soul into. His office was everything you'd expect from a rising tech executive. Sleek glass walls, expensive art, the smell of fresh leather. Robert didn't even look up from his laptop. "Jessica," he said, typing away. "The board has decided to shift direction. Consumer applications, bigger market, faster profits. Your security project, it's being terminated." Just like that. 5 years reduced to a passing sentence. I tried to explain what Sentinel could do. How it wasn't just another app. How it could change the way the world defended itself online. But Kane waved me off like I was an annoying pop-up ad. "We've already sold your code base," he said flatly. "Military contractor. They'll retool it for their needs. Your services are no longer required." Betrayal isn't always loud. Sometimes it's quiet. Few words. Closing door. Here's what that day taught me. When you hand over your dreams to people who only care about profit, don't be surprised when they sell them without blinking. But what Kane didn't know was that the very code he had just sold carried a signature he couldn't erase. Quiet storm. Waiting for the right moment. And that moment was now just minutes away. After Kane's office door clicked shut behind me, I didn't argue. I didn't fight. I just smiled politely, signed the termination papers he slid across the table, and walked away, carrying nothing but my purse and a secret tucked deep inside the code they thought they owned. You see, from the moment I wrote the very first line of Project Sentinel, I knew this day could come. I had seen too many stories. Brilliant developers watching helplessly as executives slapped their names on work they didn't even understand. So I built in a safeguard. A silent verification protocol hidden in Sentinel's core. Not obvious, not flashy, just an elegant piece of code waiting, patient as a heartbeat. Think of it like a watermark on a painting, invisible to the naked eye, but unmistakable to those who know where to look. Every time Sentinel's code was touched, modified, or claimed by someone else, my signature would quietly track it, layer by layer, change by change, until the truth could no longer be denied. It's like leaving a trail of invisible breadcrumbs through a dark forest, so that when the time came, no matter how lost people thought you were, you could always find your way back home. And here's what I learned. Sometimes protecting your work isn't about fighting louder. It's about fighting smarter. about building defenses into your dreams quietly, where no one even thinks to look. And now, at precisely 2:59 p.m., standing in Aunt Patricia's backyard with a lemonade in my hand, I knew that little piece of hidden truth was waking up. Just one more minute, and the first domino would fall. They thought the story was over. They had no idea it was just getting started. Before we dive into what happened next, I'd love to hear from you. How would you feel if you spent years building something with your heart and soul, only to have it stolen by someone else? Would you have walked away? Or would you have fought back quietly like Jessica did? Share your thoughts and feelings in the comments below, because your voice matters, and I'd love to know what you would have done in her shoes. As phones buzzed and nervous whispers rippled across the lawn, I reached into my bag and pulled out my laptop. The same one I'd carried to late-night coding sessions. The same one where Sentinel had been born. Would you like to see? My voice was steady, almost gentle, but it carried across the suddenly quiet backyard like a spark through dry grass. On the screen, I opened a secure browser window and accessed a live feed. Sentinel's authentication protocol at work, mapping every line of code, every change, every hidden fingerprint, all traced back to one name. Lane. Imagine trying to repaint a masterpiece, only to have the original artist's signature reappear underneath every new layer of paint. That's what Sentinel was doing now, quietly peeling away every false claim, every stolen edit, until the truth stood naked and undeniable. Peter leaned forward, his face pale. Amanda clutched her phone like it might shield her from the headlines. Trevor. Well, Trevor finally ran out of clever things to say. But I wasn't finished yet. I clicked into a second file. An email chain. Carefully preserved. Timestamp. Where Kane himself had dismissed Sentinel as just a hobby project, and given me written permission to test it independently, without ever claiming ownership. 5 years ago, I had saved that email out of nothing but stubborn instinct. Today, it felt like a sword forged in patience, now perfectly poised. And here's something no one tells you. Protecting your work isn't just about passion. It's about documentation. About being ready quietly for the day when the truth needs a voice louder than yours. The patents I'd filed, the legal rights I'd secured. One by one I laid them out. Nexus Technologies didn't own Sentinel. They had never owned it. Every algorithm, every innovation, it was all mine. It was like watching a magician's trick unravel in slow motion, until even the audience realized there was no magic. Only theft. Only truth. Finally demanding to be seen. And if they thought the headlines were bad now, they had no idea what was still coming. As the last email opened on my screen, the weight in the air shifted. It wasn't just the headlines anymore. It was the realization. A silent, collective understanding that the girl they had mocked had outbuilt them, outsmarted them, and outlasted them. A notification buzzed on my phone, pulling me back. It was an email from Sarah Martinez, the CEO of Oracle. Impressive authentication protocol, she wrote. Would you be interested in discussing Project Sentinel's real potential? In the span of a single afternoon, the story had shifted from family disgrace to industry disruptor. It's funny. You spend years feeling invisible, working through quiet nights and louder doubts, and then suddenly the world looks at you like you appeared out of nowhere. But you know better. You know it was built, brick by brick, moment by moment, line by stubborn line. Later that evening, while my cousins scrambled to explain themselves to investors and PR teams, I sat down with Sarah over coffee. No pretense, no fake smiles. Just two people who understood the difference between building and stealing. And here's what I realized that day. Real power doesn't come from taking shortcuts. Comes from doing the work. From protecting what you create. And from waiting, patiently, quietly, until the world finally catches up to what you've known all along. The offer on the table. Exclusive rights to Project Sentinel. a leadership role, Chief Technology Officer, to help implement it across Oracle's global network. A new chapter, one written entirely on my own terms. And the best part, this was only the beginning. Because while the fall of Nexus was making headlines, something even bigger was quietly taking root. A movement far beyond just one stolen project. Winning back Sentinel was never just about proving a point. It was about something bigger. Something that had been broken in our industry for far too long. Developers, the builders, the dreamers, the ones who stayed late and fought silent battles, had spent too many years watching their work taken, erased, and repackaged with someone else's name stamped on top. And for the first time, they saw a different ending. Started small. Few messages in my inbox, then dozens, then hundreds. Stories from coders around the world, whispering about the apps, the algorithms, the systems they had built, only to watch someone else cash the checks and pose for the awards. One night, a young developer named Jimmy Chen reached out. He had been at Nexus too, quietly supporting my work from the sidelines. "Jessica," he said, "we're starting something. We're calling it the Guardian Protocol. Coalition. Support Network. A place where developers could document their contributions, protect their intellectual property, and stand together, so that no one had to fight alone ever again." Watching that first website go live, a simple white page, filled with names, timelines, and proof, felt bigger than any headline or job title ever could. And here's what I learned. Real change doesn't happen when you tear things down out of anger. It happens when you build something better in its place. The Guardian Protocol wasn't just about Sentinel anymore. It was about every silent genius who'd ever been told they were replaceable. About every dream quietly written into code that deserved a name, a face, and a future. And as for me, I wasn't finished building either. Because some victories aren't measured in headlines or contracts. They're measured in what you inspire others to believe they can protect and create. After all the headlines faded, after the boardrooms emptied and the investigations wrapped up, what stayed with me wasn't the victory itself. It was something much simpler. The understanding that real power, the kind that lasts, doesn't come from who can shout the loudest, or who can grab the most attention. Real power lies in creation. In the quiet hours when you sit at your desk, pouring your ideas into a world that doesn't yet exist. In the moments no one is watching, and you still choose to show up anyway. I thought about Trevor, my cousin who once mocked me, now emailing me to ask for mentorship. I thought about Jimmy Chen and all the developers now standing up for themselves, no longer invisible. I thought about the late nights I spent coding Sentinel, wondering if anyone would ever see the work behind the curtain. And I realized, success isn't a moment. It's a lifetime of choosing to build, to protect what you create, to stay true to the work even when nobody else claps for you. So if you take anything from this story, let it be this. Titles come and go. Headlines fade. But the things you create with your own hands, your own mind, your own heart, they last. They echo. As the sun set that evening, I opened my laptop once more. Blank page. A new idea stirring. Another chance to build something that matters. Thank you so much for staying with me through Jessica's story. If there's one thing we can take away today, it's that true success isn't about flashy titles or who gets the loudest applause. It's about perseverance, quiet strength, and the courage to protect what you build, even when no one else believes in you. I would love to hear what this story meant to you. How did it make you feel? Have you ever been underestimated just like Jessica? Please share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. Your voice could inspire someone else who's fighting their own silent battle. And if you enjoyed this journey, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more stories that remind us that sometimes the quietest warriors leave the biggest mark. Until next time, take care, and keep believing in the power of what you build.